My name is Lisa. For many years I have lived in or near Worcester, Massachusetts. It's a beautiful city. I grew up watching reruns of All in the Family, Married with Children, questionable sitcoms involving a dense, self-absorbed husband causing trouble for his wife and family. In 2021, I saw that a dark comedy was coming out, which was going to completely subvert that script. It would tell the story from the point of view of the downtrodden wife. I was thrilled. Even better, the story was going to be set in Worcester. I was now beyond thrilled. I came into this video project with a few goals. First, there are more than enough people out there doing episode recaps. It seemed like a waste of time for me to simply recap the episodes like everyone else. I had little interest in doing that. Second, something I could provide which would be unique would be to focus on the Worcester references. After all, how many people in the world actually live in or near Worcester? I could provide all sorts of context and background information on Worcester, its environment, the landscapes, the weather, pretty much anything at all involving Worcester. Third, I adore knowing where movies are actually filmed. I love going to New York City or Vegas and standing where a key moment took place. So even for those scenes not filmed in Worcester, I wanted to figure out where they were shot. Like this is from Free Guy. We'll add a fourth. I'm an author, and most of my proceeds go to support battered women's shelters. It's a cause I feel strongly about. I've mentioned Abby's house previously in this video series. Abby's house is located in Worcester. It is critical as a society that we provide ample support structures for abused women. Okay, so on to me watching Kevin can F himself. The show begins with the standard jerk husband Kevin and long-suffering wife Allison, complete with laugh track. And I really appreciated when the scene cut out to Allison's point of view and the world went bleak and non-augmented, so I was all for the overall setup. In terms of my goals for commenting on the show's cool Worcester references though, my plan quickly fell apart. There was rarely anything even remotely referencing Worcester, never mind actually shot there. I don't think a single scene anywhere so far has been filmed in Worcester. I know some people will say, who cares, it could be shot on a soundstage. But hopefully as a society we are past the days of fake set locations and fake ethnic actors and all of that. It brings vastly more authenticity to a show when the actors are grounded in reality, the locations have the proper feel, the landscapes are right, and so on. I'll do a separate video on that topic since there seem to be some people who think a soundstage show can convey the same power as an on-location shoot. With that key purpose of my series now pretty much gone, that left me focused on where things were shot, which, while it was a fun research project to figure those locations out, it wasn't very intellectually engaging, which meant I got more drawn into the things I figured I wouldn't tackle, namely the plot points and character development. And if I was disappointed with the lack of any real Worcester presence in the show, I found I was also disappointed in the portrayal of a woman in an abusive relationship. I figured at the onset that many different reviewers would be covering the Kevin can F himself from that angle. How could Allison cope in this living hell? How would the dynamic change over the episodes? So I didn't want to duplicate their efforts. I didn't mention these items at all. But I found as an adult woman that I became more and more frustrated with each new episode. As much as Kevin can F himself billed itself as a dark comedy based on Allison's point of view, there were long, vast swaths of time spent/wasted on Kevin and Neil's stupid actions. I had zero interest in watching those sections. They were annoying time wasters. Many times Allison wasn't even there, so they didn't impact Allison's character arc. And then with Allison, we have her go pretty much immediately from thinking Kevin is a self-centered jerk, which he is of course, to therefore I'll just murder him. What? There is barely a blink of coherent thought. Yes, abused women can get tunnel vision. Yes, they can feel trapped. Yes, Allison didn't have any external support. Allison's aunt was equally a stay with the abuser woman. Patty, the only other woman in Allison's life, was actively hostile to Allison. But Allison has a job. She's in a town with lots of college kids needing roommates. Heck, there are tons of open jobs here for things like being a house mother. She could find a new place to live, and she has an income. For her to go coldly to kill Kevin off, even for me, felt like a huge stretch. Allison is even directly asked by the librarian, why wouldn't the wife just leave? Allison's two excuses are that she doesn't have a savings, which she doesn't need, and that he would chase after her, which would imply he's smart enough to even find her, which clearly he isn't. Allison quickly descends into seeming even more ruthless and stupid. She doesn't even know how Oxy works, but she's sure she can kill him with it. Then she decides the only way to possibly get Oxy is to go to Vermont for it. She finally has her chance, but she chickens out on the direct path. After all, she might get caught, and instead she desires to hire a hitman. I will note in the storyline we are now at episode 7 of 8 in the first season. We are still having episodes full of stupid Kevin screen time, opposed by Allison coldly planning to murder him scenes. I just wasn't enjoying either half. The Kevin scenes felt idiotic, which they were supposed to, but why we were wasting time watching them? We know Kevin is stupid. That's the entire point. It's already being beaten to death. The Allison scenes are why we're watching, and in them she's just being a cold, manipulative person planning a murder for practically no reason at all. And now she's roped 2 more people into her situation. Kevin wasn't shot, the hitman was. Clearly there are mountains of evidence that are going to link Allison, her DNA, her fingerprints, and her presence to this guy. And then Allison shouts out her guilt in her house, which means Neil can hear her. Neil, a loyal, compassionate friend, wants to call the police to let the police know that a murderous wife is plotting to kill Neil's best friend. And that's pretty much where the first season ends. So by the end of season 1, I was annoyed about the amount of time the show wasted on the Kevin stupid scenes. I was annoyed that the time they did spend on Allison only seemed to prove she was a self-centered sociopath. She was primarily interested in herself and willing to do whatever it took to make her own life easier. If anything, I had more sympathy for Patty, who made the switch to let loose a boyfriend who just wasn't right for her and to move forward with a new relationship. And I had the most sympathy for Neil, who tried to stay loyal to his abusive friend and was willing to call the cops when he realized something was drastically wrong. But even with that being said, none of these people felt like real human beings to me. They all acted as caricatures. Compare this with, for example, Mayor of Easttown, where the relationships were equally screwed up, but the people all felt real and authentic. I knew the people were deeply flawed, and I still cared immensely for them. Here, in Kevin Can F Himself, the characters didn't feel real at all. You could say that was intended in the stupid Kevin scenes, but absolutely should not have been the case in the real Allison scenes. If anything, that was a key reason the real Allison scenes should have felt strongly real, to be a counterpoint to the stupid Kevin scenes. But the Allison scenes just weren't real feeling. If anything, they simply felt like a second sitcom layer, a layer of stupid Allison sitcom actions. So this is where we enter Season 2. And I will note that I am recording this video here only after watching Season 2's Episode 1 and 2. I do each of my videos immediately after watching an episode, so I'm not influenced at all about what happens next. My reaction to Season 2, Episodes 1 and 2 were so strong that I wanted to record my thoughts here without being at all altered by whatever it is to come. So we start Season 2 with an absolutely idiotic plotline in Allison's world of Allison and Patty holding Neil hostage in Patty's basement. This really reinforced to me that the Allison half to this show is also a sitcom. It's not really different than the Kevin half. Both Kevin and Allison are doing stupid things for stupid reasons. But Neil. I have been frustrated up until now that every person in this show feels like a caricature, a fake cardboard person. And then we get to Neil after he realizes what Allison is up to. It is almost like we are only now seeing the real layer of this whole show, the Neil layer, the one person who has been authentically real and who has only been seen as a buffoon through the eyes of both Kevin and Allison. In comparison with the previous scenes, Neil's acting, his facial expressions, his tone of voice, I was incredibly impressed. And here we are, 9 episodes into the series, and a situation with Neil was the first one that launched a strong, authentic reaction out of me. Here's the scene.
Get him to put gas in his own car. He never does anything I want him to.
Why would he? You know how often you say, "But Kevin!"
Okay.
We made a drinking game out of it last St. Patty's Day. I blacked out.
When I first saw that scene, and even now when I rewatch it, I feel instant fury at Neil for saying that Allison was responsible for her abuse. That is exactly the type of statements abusers make, and I launch into defense mode hearing it. But once I get past that, I realize that in a way Neil is right. She could easily have changed her dynamic because, as we have proven countless times, Kevin is stupid. Allison could have run rings around him if she wanted. She instead chose to be entwined in what was going on. And again, I am fully aware of how battered women fall into a rut, come to see the situation as normal and all of that. I understand, and if the show were made differently, that could have been explored. Instead, though, all we see is Allison making incredibly stupid, self-centered decisions, and it's only Neil who sees even a glimpse of what is going on. And this insight from Neil also makes me angry because the show isn't supposed to be about Neil. It's not supposed to be about a guy friend being the key person. It's supposed to be about Allison. but instead she goes on with her idiocy and is still interacting with Kevin to sabotage him. So I was already impressed with Neil's humanity in the first episode, and I was even less impressed with Allison, with how she completely ignores her aunt, only focuses on herself, and doesn't even notice that our aunt is finally breaking free of her abusive relationship and is going to leave and start a new life. Wow, I can just feel the emotion and pain and everything rising off of him in a way that I didn't get from the other characters, and it's such a difference from the way he was being seen by Kevin and Allison as a goofy character previously. This is the Neil that was always being discounted and made fun of and teased, and he didn't show any sign of having a full personality, and now we've got scenes like this.
Okay, it's freezing out, so go inside, because you look... Well, you've looked better.
Really?
Yeah, we've gone from someone who was a yes man to Kevin, pretty much like Allison was. And this is from Patty, his sister, who bashed him on the head because he was trying to report a murderous plot.
Get out. Get out.
So it's not that he got better lines or more powerful scenes than Allison did. It's just in all of these scenes with Allison, she feels like a cartoon character and she acts like a cartoon character. And then finally we get this scene with Neil, and I was just so impressed with the power and the emotion and the authenticity that he brought to it. And again, you could say, maybe if they hadn't given Allison good enough lines or something like that, that maybe that was the cause. But there's just something about the performance with Neil that really struck me as powerful. And I'm not getting that sense at all with Allison, when Allison is supposed to be the battered woman, the key of the story, and all of that. So I feel disappointed on a number of levels, because I wanted to root for the battered woman. I wanted her to rise above, and whatever she ended up doing is part of the storyline. I wanted to see that journey, and I just didn't see that at all in here. So I guess I now have to wait to see what happens in the third episode and the remaining episodes of season 2, where this is going to go. But I am feeling very odd at the turn that this is taking, that I am so empathizing with Neil and still not empathizing pretty much at all with Allison. And if anything, I care more about Patty. So I have studiously worked to avoid all spoilers about this, and we'll see how episodes 3 to 8 play out, and maybe the show was actually all along about Patty and Neil, the brother and sister pair, and it wasn't at all about Allison escaping from Kevin or freeing herself from Kevin or killing off Kevin or whatever was going to happen on that storyline. So I am curious to see how this plays out, and I will go forward and watch the rest of the episodes and do my video by video summaries right after each one so that I get each set fresh. So I guess I will talk to you guys at the end of all of them, because now I'm going to be afraid to read the comments until I finish the series in case someone posts spoilers about what's going to happen for the rest of the episodes. So I will read the comments after I get through the next set of them, and I will try to do those as quickly as I can.